do I see what this theory suggests? Do I see it in my company? And what evidence do I have to show that? And that's a case study. And a case study can be a case study of processes, a case study of policies, a case study of planning systems, planning processes, a case study of the philosophy of the company, how it's created, how it's communicated, what is the vision, mission, and values of the company, how are they passed down to the individual. This is what the components of the case study say, well, it should have this, here it is, and this is the consequence. And whether the consequences as predicted by the Schuler models. Okay, that's a case study, right? But in the alternative, you want to use a statistical approach, an empirical, well, case study isn't empirical, but a statistical approach. You would say, I'm not going to use one company, I'm going to use many companies. Because I'm interested in the general applicability of the job, of the model, not just the specifics. Okay? It's up to you. I mean, a case study is perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Then, this is the point. We have to then find how are we going to measure these things. So I'm going for the easy things first, right? The low-hanging fruit. It's easy to measure that. This is also very easy, but we've also identified various issues about definition. Yeah, but once we clarify the definition, it's easy.
How about we just choose one of them?
Yes, we just choose one.
Clarify that. Do not need to combine everything. Just choose one of that, so make it simple.
Okay, development is also relatively easy, but again, there are issues which we just need to clarify. Once we've clarified, we defined, we use it.
That's right.
The development could be the number of hours they spend on training. The development is not the that's an input measure. That's the number of hours they spend per person on training. But you might prefer an output measure, the number of qualifications that they get because of the number of hours they spend on training. An output measure. Or you might prefer an outcome measure. Because we developed our human resources in this way, we can measure the outcome of that, which is an increase in productivity or something like that.
Maybe faster to make the project faster.
Yes, a faster project, higher productivity, more innovation, more clients, because of the nature. That's a more holistic measure of the outcome of development in terms of the business growth. But ultimately, you're interested in connecting it to the talent base in this model, and that means you need to look at how is the development of talent measured.
And the talent will be linked to the outcome.
Sure.
Should be,
yes.
Should be something like that. Maybe shorter time for the same project.
Okay, so in these cases, the thing we're trying to explain is measurable. We just need to make decisions as to how we're going to measure it. These decisions are not trivial decisions, they matter. But once we've made the decision, provided it's clear, often we will make the same decision as other people made in the literature, because they've already considered the matter, and they've said we're going to measure retention in this way. Right? And then that's done, it's easy, right? Or relatively easy. But then, these things are not so easy, because these things are not easy to measure. So what we need to do is to create what we call an instrument to measure it. Okay? And that's actually what we were looking at yesterday, which is a survey. Yeah. Okay? And yesterday we did, with the stuff we did yesterday, which was on quantitative versus qualitative research, right? And we had 10 points, and we said, depending on the number of ticks and the number of crosses, this will that will be either more or less in terms more quantitative. So it's like a little thing moving, right? That's an instrument because then we can measure, right? From 0 to 100. If it goes to 100, it's quantitative. If it goes to, right? Something like that. But we then, I don't know if we did do that. Shall we? Yes, all right, we did. Essentially, we did that, right? We got the percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very simple instrument. Okay, we ask 10 questions, and depending on the outcome of those questions, we determine whether it is more or less quantitative. And the less quantitative it is, according to our definition, because we use agree or disagree, it's very simple. The less quantitative, the more qualitative. Right? Which is a bit like what we're looking at here. The lower the attraction, the higher the retention, right? Or the lower the retention, the higher that sort of thing, right? The different sides. So we can make an instrument. And an instrument is a methodology for providing an empirical measure of something that is intangible or not measurable normally in empirical ways. Numbers, I mean, when I talk about it. I often use for me, I use the term empirical when I mean numbers, numerical. But actually, empirical data is more than just numbers. Anything actually is. Any data is empirical. Any artifact is empirical. So what we would need to do is to look at what it is we're trying to think about in terms of these issues. Planning, program, policy, process, philosophy. A simple way of doing it is we're actually interested in the effectiveness of the plan, the effectiveness of the program, the effectiveness of the policy, the effectiveness of the process, the effectiveness of the philosophy. But we could start even more simply than that by saying, do you have it or not? That's like we did yesterday. Do you agree or disagree? It's very simple. Yeah? And the alternative would be, how much do you agree? And how much do you disagree, right? So the simplest indicator would be to ask the company, do I have a planning process? Do I have a program thing, whatever it is? Do I have policies, HR policies? Do I have a process? Do I have a philosophy, clearly? Yeah. In principle, you could connect all of these 5 things together. And you could say, on a scale of 1 to 5, how many of them do you have? Now that presupposes that they are all equally important. So you have an index, and the index runs from 0 to 5. Okay? Simply asking the question, do you have it or not?
Yeah.
Okay? And then there's an index. And then all you need to do, let's have a look at it. So you would have option 1, single index. Okay? Which would be 0, 5 on each item. Okay, so that would be the sum of PI equals 1 to 5. The index, 5P index. I put some maths there already. That's to show how really cool and bright I am. It's not to show that. It's just symbols, right? It's just nothing of any real value. It's just symbols. All I'm saying is, each of these P's becomes P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. That's PI. And I takes the value of 1 to 5. And this sigma here means I take the sum of it, I add it up to the total. Okay? I can easily put this as P1 plus P2 plus P3 plus P4 plus P5 equals my index. Fine. Okay? And then all I'm asking is, do you have it or not? So in other words, each one of these takes a value of 0 or 1. If they have policies, they get a 1. If they don't have policies, they get a 0. So the total that they could possibly get is 5.
Yeah.
The least they could have is 0. Then, all you would say is, this is a single index model, that would be attraction, development, and retention, okay, is then dependent upon the index, the value of the index, each one of them, individually. Okay? So you would take, yeah? Now we can go even further. We can say attraction A is a function of the index 5P. Okay? What that means is the attraction rate depends upon the index, the number of these that they have. Okay? And we would say that this was positive. Positive, right? The more of these things they have, the more attractive they are. The fewer of these things they have, the less attractive they are. It's the simplest application I can think of in terms of the Schuler 5P model. They have it. The more of it they have, the more attractive they are. The less of it they have, the less attractive they are. But that would be the same for development and retention, isn't it? It's also a function of 5P, it's also a function of the index. And in every case, this relationship would be positive. And it would be sufficient for you to say, I see the attractiveness go up if they have these things. I see the development go up if they have these things, and I see the retention go up if they have these things. And I see if they don't have these things, the retention will go down, the development will go down, and the attraction will go down. That's it, and we call that that's your basic hypothesis, right? So the basic hypothesis is that IP5 increases A, D, and R. That's your basic hypothesis against the alternative that IP5 does not do that. Does not affect AD and R. But actually, it has to be positive. So it increases. Okay, is that clear or not? I'm going quite quickly, but that's because what I'm trying to do here, very simply, is to take that sort of table. We had a table, that's all it was, and I said, this isn't the model. This is useless. All this is just a list of definitions, right?
Yeah.
This means nothing to me, right? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? I wasn't being completely serious, because I can't be serious because I don't know the model, right? But all I'm saying is, all right, that's what you tell me, but this is how I will then test it. And I'm going to show you the single index version, which is the simplest thing, right? The simple thing.
Yes.
how do I do this in terms of, in empirical terms? Okay, I get 100 companies. And then I ask the company, what is your staff turnover? And they tell me 20%, 10%, 5%, 2%, right? And then I say, which of the following 5 things do you have? And they say, we have this, this, don't have that, this, don't have. And that's all I have to ask. 2 questions. The survey is very short. Yeah, tell me your retention level, tell me your turnover rate, tell me if you have these 5 things or not. That's it. And then other things I would like to know about the company. How big is it? How new is it? Is it foreign or local? How much do they pay? All right, then I can build a model. All right? But that model, in general terms, it has this function, right? Basically, it says this is related to this. Okay? Then I can do all manner of statistical tests. I can do a simple correlation. Okay? If I do a correlation, well, let's look at it. If I do if I do a correlation test, a very simple correlation test, I would expect positive correlation coefficient between A and the index D and the index and retention and the index. And I would expect that to be positive and large and significant. And that would be sufficient. Like I said, I've already tested it. I've got it, right? Okay? Or I could do a factor analysis, which basically is similar, factor analysis. Okay? But that means it's 2 variable factor analysis, right? And then I would have A, D, and R related to the index. Okay? Or I could do a regression. Where I would say A equals alpha plus beta I, and then it will be an error term. Okay? But I would expect this to be positive and significant. I don't care about that, and I just want this to be random. Okay, and then I could look at the R squared. High. I don't know how to say. R squared would be high. Okay, and if I had these things, this was random and the regression was run properly, I could do a test, and the test here is just a t-test. Just a t-test. It's just to tell me it's significant. And if it was positive and significant, and the error term was random, and the R squared was high, I would be happy with that regression. And that is just a single index. And I can do that, right? Because I don't need to worry then about anything much about these things. Because I'm not asking anything about the quality of those things. I'm just asking whether you have it or not. Right? That's all. Do you have it or not? Okay? And then my index is just a counting thing. It's just a number. Right? So whether you have it or not. And that would get you actually quite far too. right? But what this doesn't tell you is which of these things is important. Okay? So the second model would be to say that I want to look at retention for each company, taking these into account on an individual basis. Yeah? Which of them do you, which of these matter, which of these don't matter? Okay? Because for this single index, I could have a company with an index value of 3, and I could have another company with an index value of 3. The first company has planning, program, and policy, doesn't have process or philosophy. The second company has philosophy, process, and policy, but doesn't have programs and planning. But they have the same value. So I need to find the difference between a company that has planning, a company that has programs, a company that has policies, a company that has processes, and a company that has philosophies.
So at that time, I will have 2 questions there, two separate questions.
No, because no.
One asks the company, one asks the software developer.
Oh yes. Yes.
Different
Yes.
samples, yeah.
Yes. Because one is a demand side,
That's
Yeah.
right.
and the other is a supply side.
That's right.
And you would want to map to see whether it matters, whether it matches.
Yeah.
Because if the market were in equilibrium, it would be the same thing that matters.
Yeah.
The company would be offering to the software developer the exact things that they want. If the company is offering philosophy, process, and policy, but the software developer wants planning, program, and process, there's a mismatch.
Or maybe even the definition of the software company and the developer may be different too. Maybe the developer don't know if the company have planning or not.
Well, yes, it's a question of whether they know that or not.
Know that or
So
not.
at that time, I will make 2 survey, one.
Yes, so this is helping you now to understand
Yeah.
The structure.
of your survey, because you're trying to create a survey which will give you a good instrument.
Yeah.
And the good instrument is to measure something which is otherwise intangible.
Yeah.
Okay? So that we can then have numbers. And once we have numbers, we can do statistics. And once we have statistics, we can do significance testing. Then when somebody says this doesn't explain the real world, we can say actually it does. Or it doesn't. I agree with you, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's up right that you can say it because you've actually tested it. Okay? Another thing that we might want to know is about the quality of the planning process and policies and all of this. Okay? So this is measured here on a scale of 0 to 1. Do you have it or not? But then we could have a different model where we wanted to look at the quality of the instrument. Okay? Then we would say that PI, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, takes a value between 0 and 5. Let's say we give it a Likert scale. We make a Likert scale. Yeah. Okay.
How
Yeah.
about we can combine 2 questions into one?
Right.
Like you ask them, can you raise the factor how?
Yes,
good
that's what
is
we're
that
doing. Yes.
In one question because it's make it shorter.
No, that's what we're doing.
It's,
Yes, we're saying Well, I mean, this basically we're talking about the quality of the index, right?
Yeah.
So it's
already-
it's the same thing, because if
It's
they don't have it,
That's right.
it would be zero.
That's right. So you choose only one question, but
Yeah.
for two purpose, and you can use it in different kind of analyze.
Is it maybe if you do like that maybe difficult for response the
No. The response would be, it might be, that's why you might just ask the question, do you have it or not?
yeah.
Then that's easy. But then they might say, of course we do. We have planning. Of course we have planning. But that might be, in a company, the boss.
At that time they don't know what the planning.
Yes.
Planning what?
So you see, the planning then could be, the boss sits down, like I do, with my this, and I say, there's my plan. There you go, that's my plan. Of course I plan. What do you mean I don't plan? I went for breakfast this morning, or I went to the bar last night. I was planning all evening.
Yeah.
And my plans got better and better the more beer I drank. They were great plans. By the end of the evening, the problem is I can't remember a single one of them, right? So you could say, yes, that's my planning. But then someone else could say, look, we have full, systematic, structured, strategic planning,
Yeah.
applying a whole portfolio of different planning tools, right? And clearly, this is qualitatively better than the first one. So one way of asking about the planning would be just a subjective response. And the subjective response would be, how detailed or how complicated is your planning on a scale of 0 to 5? And they might say, well, yes, we have it, so that answers your 0-1 question. We have it, we don't. But it's not very complicated. I give it like a 3. Or they might say, yes, we have it and it's very complicated. I give it 5. Or we say we don't really have it. I give it 0. And any positive value, any value above 0, in other words, means they have it, and that's 0-1. But this is now saying it can have a higher value to 1, because it could be up to 5. Yeah. Then you can build another index which says that I have a value from 0 to 5, and I create a new index. Let's call it 5P quality index. Let's call it that, right? And that is the sum of all of the i's. The I equals 1, 2, 25, isn't it? Because there's 25 different values. No, it's not. Pi, no, it's not. Sorry. Pi is 5, 1 to 5, right? But now, instead of having a value from here, the maximum value would be 5. Here, the minimum value is 0, the maximum value is 25. Right? 5 times 5 is 25.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Here, the min 0, the max 5. Okay? So, like we said yesterday, you have more variation. And because you have more variation, you're basically saying it's not just that you have it, it's the quality. Okay? And then you can do exactly the same analysis, right? Because you've converted it then into a single index. But you're still collecting together the whole 5 P's, and it's not helping you to understand which of those P's is important and which is not important. Okay? Now, Yeah, any questions? No, that's because it's perfectly clear, right? It's perfectly clear.
It's good.
No clear.
Huh?
Maybe I don't know.
Okay, no, look. Okay, so the third model we have, this is like index. I just take all 5, I give it a value,
Yeah.
and then I'm interested only in 2 variables.
Yeah.
2 variables in 3 separate cases. Attraction index, the attraction and the index, how are they connected? Retention and the index, how are they connected? Development and the index, how are they connected? Okay?
So, should I remove develop component because it's they're difficult to define?
Okay, if you want to take it out, take it out. Doesn't matter, right?
Make it easy. Yeah, I vote for that because it's more and more complicated if you develop it further.
The third model is to look at the partial contribution. Okay? And the partial contribution is to say, if I'm measuring attraction, okay, this is a function of P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. Okay? Attraction depends on each one of those in different ways. Right? And I want to see which of those 5 are important and which are not. Perhaps all 5 are important. Perhaps none are important. In a correlation, okay, I just look at I would want a positive correlation between A and all of these of the P's. Okay, that's it. So I just do a correlation table, and I see that I should see a high and positive correlation, and it should be significantly different to 0. That's what I mean by high. It's significantly different. Okay? If I wanted to do a factor analysis, I would take, we're only doing 2 now, for simplicity, right? I take attraction and retention, and I want all of these factors. If I want to do a regression, which is essentially the same thing, I would take the attraction, and it would be B1, P1, plus beta 2, P2, plus beta 3, P3, plus beta 4, P4, plus beta 5, P5, plus an error 2. Okay? Now what I want to see is which of these betas are significant. And I do that with a t-test, right? Okay, I just do a t. Actually, if you
individual.
no, this is a multiple correlation. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's say I do a t-test. T-test, right? And I find that this is significant. This is significant. Significant, right? But then I find this one is not significant. This one is not significant. Okay? And then this one is significant. Okay? That means my regression tells me that that's not important, that's not important, this is. Okay? And it will also tell me how important they are based on the size of the beta. The size of the B. If the B is big, if B4 is bigger than B1, that means that this one, let's say process, is more important than planning. So that tells me not just that it's which are important, which are not important, it tells me how important they get.
How about the value of B1, B4? Value area?
Sorry? Well, we don't know. I mean, if we had some prior view as to what beta should be, then the theory would tell us beta should be 1, or beta should be greater than 1.
Number one case is 0 or 1, right?
Yes.
B1 plus B2, 0 or 1.
P in the first case, P1 takes a value either of 0 or 1. That's it. It's like agree or disagree. That's it. Agree 1, disagree 0. That's it. Yeah. But this one, okay, now this one can be done using either the single index, 0, 1. We just measured, do they have it or not?
That's right.
Do they have or not, have or not, have or not, have or not, have or not? Or it has a value of 0 to 5.
Nên thành ra làm bên này á, thì biết luôn bên này, mà làm bên này thì không biết luôn. Mình chỉ cần làm cái này thôi.
Để mình biết được cái mức độ ấy.
Nên thành ra là người ta chỉ cần làm phía bên này thôi, người ta không cần làm phía bên này cho nó dài cái bảng của em ra. Chứ nó chạy qua nó bị bay lại.
Tại vì thầy nói là có khi là V4 nó lại mạnh hơn V1.
Thì đó là cái live scale. Chị chỉ nói là
Should we have a break? Did I overwhelm you with the mathematics?
Trong giải thích đây, khoan xích ra để
Em đừng xích ra em.
nãy giờ thấy ngủ không cần hình của em, cần hình này.
Anh làm gì có chuyện ngủ trong lúc học?
Thầy lên group.
Giải thích này, B1 đến B5 đúng không? Là tương đương cho 5 yếu tố này nè. Đó.
Cái đó là single, có nghĩa là nó chỉ hỏi có hay không.
Còn
bên này á, nó hỏi cả cái mức độ cho how strong cái có.
Đang giải thích từ đầu cho ra hiểu không? Còn cái ADR là viết tắt của cái này nè, là những cái mà biến factor, hiểu không? Tức là chị hiểu cái mô đồ này nói cái gì? Mô đồ lúc đầu cái gì?
Không, gọi là cái gì?
Giải thích từ tới đâu giải thích?
Cứ
đi giải thích từ tới đâu giải thích?
Còn cái intangible gọi là gì?
Giải thích lại là cái đó là cái biến tơ.
Tức là để đánh giá cái tương quan của cái này á, là có 3 phương pháp.
Cái từ tiếng Việt.
Rồi 3 phương pháp, ok.
Phương pháp này là single index phương pháp này á. Chị cho cái phần này á là cái planning yếu tố này là đồng ý hay không đồng ý. Không đồng ý là 0, đồng ý là 1.
Rồi,
còn
hiểu.
sau đó là tính tổng được cái số này. Nếu như mà thằng nào cũng đồng ý hết thì có nghĩa là cái này nó mắc và những cái yếu tố đó là cần thiết hết.
Nên thành ra hồi nãy chị mới hỏi ổng là combine hai cái này để
so sánh này.
Em nghĩ là chia ra thì nó dễ.
Đó là nó có 3 yếu tố xếp vào đây thì xếp từng cái một. A nếu mà cũng đồng ý hết, chứng tỏ là 5 cái yếu tố này nó đều cần thiết cho.
Không, cái hai cái này là một trong
nếu như R, D
chị không hỏi.
cũng áp cái công thức này vô. Nếu mà nó là Y5 hết. 1
Cái bản câu hỏi của em ngày hôm qua là hỏi develop.
Rồi cái bên kia.
Còn cái câu hỏi mà hỏi 5 cái này á
là cũng 5 yếu tố này. Nhưng mà thay vì á là mình hỏi là
em
đồng ý hay không đồng ý.
Nhưng mà ngay cả
hay hỏi đồng ý hay không đồng ý thì mình sẽ hỏi rằng là
không
đồng ý, vô cùng không đồng ý, đồng ý, rất là đồng ý trên cái mức độ level. Thì cái level đó thì coi như là level nó chạy từ 0 đến 5.
Cái này có ảnh hưởng
thì cái thằng này á, cái maximum của thằng này cho 5 cái yếu tố đó. Ví dụ như là vô cùng đồng ý, vô cùng đồng ý, vô cùng đồng ý, vô cùng đồng ý là một cái là 5 điểm. Thì thằng maximum này là 25.
dùng như thế nào là chuyện của mình, nhưng mà
em thấy
Ủa?
làm theo cái
Dạ?
kiểu là mình đưa ra 10 đống, 10,
Ở đây,
15,
lúc nào chọn
20
hai, lúc
yếu
nào chọn
tố
một, lúc
rồi
nào
mình
chọn
kêu
ba.
nó đánh top 3, top 5.
Không thì đang giải tổng thể đấy mà, bây giờ mình sẽ chọn cách nào
thì
phù hợp với
mỗi
mình
một
chứ.
cái
Nhưng mà cách nào sử dụng phương án nào cho cách nào?
Đo lường mà.
Đo lường.
Mình cho
Trong cái bài của mình chọn mấy phương pháp này.
the most top
Nó
3.
tùy theo
Đo
đánh giá
lường
yếu
mà
tố
cũng
này.
không-
Nếu
không
như
biết
là
được
câu hỏi
là
của em mình chỉ cần là
most
đúng hay
đó
sai
số 1 hay là
thì
số
bây
2
giờ
most
most
important.
important.
thì nghĩa là nó
Còn những câu hỏi mà nó có mức độ
ba cái đó thôi, nhưng
không
mà
bóng
mình
năm.
không biết cái nào số 1,
Thì
cái
mình
nào
chỉ
số
có
hai.
thể
Không, thì trong cái thiết kế bảng câu hỏi thì
Hiểu không?
Cái yếu
mình
tố
sẽ
thứ ba.
có cách.
yếu tố thứ ba là cũng là những yếu tố đánh giá,
nếu
nhưng mà nó
nếu
mình
em
combine,
làm
tức
như
là
vậy
mình
á, thì
tính
đến lúc
tổng
mà
lại, mình đưa một cái nó là tính kiểu là thằng này
thì một á
đánh giá
là
thằng này
giá
cho 5
trị
thằng này một
một
lúc
không.
luôn, chứ không đánh hỏi từng câu nữa.
Hai á,
Đánh giá một thằng cho 5 thằng là sao? Nó thêm lý do gì
là
bạn?
có tác động hay
Thì
không.
đấy, cái A này là bằng
Còn nếu
cái
như
F
em
của
cho
1,45 luôn.
em sẽ tính
Còn
ra
cái
được
kia là
số.
tính cái Y này là từng cái một.
Nếu em
Tổng,
đưa cái scale
em
vô
y nó
em
chạy,
sẽ tính ra
đúng
được
không?
số. Nó sẽ chạy
Hiểu
số
không ta?
được.
Rồi cái này là cái gì?
Thì là
Cái chỗ này là
thì
sao? Cái này
sẽ
sau,
rõ
cái này
ràng
nó,
hơn rất là
cái này
nhiều.
nó, cái này là xài được cộng là không được, này sau, cái này nó.
internet is back.
Đã. Okay, it's back already.
It's back, it's back.
Oh my
Gì vậy
god.
chị?
Mất mạng, nãy giờ nó mất mạng.
Anh sao lúc nào nốt, lúc nào không nốt?
khổ ghê.
Nó hỏi cái gì vậy? Mình cũng không hiểu.
Không phải giống con anh ở nhà.
Không giải thích đâu, cái này không.
Cái này phải hiểu vấn đề đấy.
Không, nhưng mà ý là sau khi trừ ra xong rồi mình cái yếu tố nào loại ra.
Không thể, cái là
này
ví
là
dụ
sao?
thôi, là một cái ví dụ như mình sẽ xếp với A, nếu mình tính tổng thể của 5 cái yếu tố này cho một cái thằng này thôi á, đưa một cái phương trình như vậy, và giả sử như là thằng này nó cần thiết, thằng này không cần thiết, thằng không cần thiết, thì mình sẽ tính được là cái mức độ cần thiết đối với thằng này, những cái yếu tố này,
Okay, full check.
hiểu không? Và như vào trong này á, thì thầy nói lúc nãy là mình có thể đánh giá theo là thấp cao nữa, thằng B này nếu mà cái giá trị nó cao hơn thì cái mức độ cần thiết nó cao hơn, hiểu không?
Coi như 3 phương án này hồi nãy em có nghe một cái câu là sử dụng cái này thì ông sử dụng cái kia.
Tại vì em thôi mà.
Nghĩa là không có sử dụng cái này mà combine vô với cái phía bên này.
Nhưng mà một đề tài áp xài mấy cái. Một đề tài.
Give
Người
me,
ta đang nói là một câu hỏi em phải áp dụng 3 cái hình thức
hiểu
phân
rồi.
tích kia kìa.
Có nghĩa là cho một câu hỏi trong cái bảng trả lời câu hỏi.
Đúng rồi đó, mà muốn áp
if
dụng
you
cái
give me
nào thì là
a few minutes, I will do an example to show how it works. All right?
Giờ hỏi nhanh đi cái phần incongruence và cái different
Bữa nãy giờ phát gì ra?
hả? Để hỏi
Cái tổng kết đó hả? Và
cho tổng kết luôn đi, giờ này nói số này
người ta muốn sau
đầu đầu á.
thực ra nó cũng cái này hay không?
Ủa, Tuấn chưa có ấy, thôi để chị gọi cho ông Trung nha, để cho Trung chuyển cho mọi người.
Chị cái gì vậy chị?
Cái không cái vé lại mất, internet lại chết.
Hai người cái nhà mình
Nó bao nhiêu tiền?
chị qua ở trên internet.
Không phải, tại vì là lát nữa ra sân bay thì mỗi người phải cầm cái của mình cho nó yên tâm chứ.
Cái này là cái gì ra?
Cái này là hôm qua chẳng taxi.
Chị nghe rồi,
Ủa cái này
chị nhớ làm cái này giúp em mới biết backup.
Chị làm đi, em mới lấy bàn chị chứ. Cái này
Đó của chị.
cái này của chị đúng không?
Demo đi.
Ủa cái này còn ai nuôi?
Hết là của chị đó.